Luke 19 passage where Jesus, I think, yeah. So this one, let's see, it's Luke 19, like 11 through 27. But that's the context. But the verse that people oftentimes cite, and they want to typically cite out of context, because it makes Jesus sound kind of scary, right? Jesus says this: those enemies of mine who did not want me to be king over them, he says, bring them here and kill them in front of me.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. It's like, did Jesus wake up on the wrong side of the bed? Like, why is Jesus so angry? Is he commanding his disciples or us to kind of like round up his enemies and bring them before him and kill them? And the answer is no. If you read the context, again, going back to context, you'll see that this is actually, yes, Jesus is saying those words, bring them here before me and kill them, but it's in the context of Jesus sharing a parable. So Jesus isn't actually commanding that. He's telling, it's a king in his parable story that is issuing that command, all right? So that's the first thing to understand. When you read the context, you realize this is just a parable, and it's only a character in the parable that issues that command, not Jesus, right? So that's the first thing. And then the second thing, of course, we mentioned that genre is an important element. And you want to ask, well, what kind of literary style is being used here? And Jesus, of course, this is a gospel account. So gospel is a particular type of genre. But the subgenre here is parable, right? Jesus is sharing a parable. And whenever you read a parable, you can't interpret that in a literal sense, because every parable is intended to make a point. And so whenever you read a parable from Jesus, you always want to ask the question, what's the point here? You know, in other words, don't take every little detail in the parable and try to find some sort of analogous real world situation. Just ask the general question, what's the general point, right? And so in this particular parable, Jesus is telling a story about a prince who goes off to become crowned king, and some people who are going to be part of his subjects don't want him to be king. And so when he comes back after he's been declared king, he finds out that these people were sort of, collaborating against him. And he orders that all of them are rounded up and killed. Okay, so that's the whole parable. That's the whole parable. Now, what's interesting about this, and this goes to the history component of context history genre, is that this is actually a real world scenario. After King Herod died, his son, I think it was his son, yeah, went to, I think, Rome to be crowned king over Judea. And many of the people in Judea, the Jews, didn't want him to be king over them. And so when he came back, he actually issued an order to have these people rounded up and killed. So when Jesus makes this parable, he's actually connecting it to a real historical event that everybody would have understood, right?